to 4.58%. Osters. Choose Interactive Brokers.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken getting ready to visit China and play nice, but Bill Gates beat him to the punch, meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. It seems that Beijing keeps coming out on top, ramping up American surveillance and stealing our technology. House Republicans are accusing Chinese actors of stealing IP from U.S. companies, costing our economy an estimated $600 billion a year. Here now is one of those Republicans, Iowa Congresswoman Ashley Hinson. Congresswoman, it's interesting. I mean, we've been talking about forced tech transfer, IP theft for decades. What for you has changed that now this is what you want to take on?
Well, I think we've been asleep at the wheel for decades, Taylor, and you look at the intellectual property theft. There are countless examples of the CCP just continuing to rip off the American small business owner, whether it's the small irrigation company that's plans were stolen and sold online, to the violin teacher who patented her curriculum and then had it stolen and sold in China. I mean, the examples just continue to mount. So it's high time that we take some action here, hold them accountable, use every tool in our toolbox, because you're right, they are stealing our research and development and our intellectual property, and they're doing it on the backs of our small business owners.
But Congresswoman, we're in a really tough spot right now, especially as Secretary Blinken is headed to China to meet with senior Chinese officials there. You know, many people feel like if we had any leverage over China before under Donald Trump, we have completely given that up and then some. So how do you deal with China when you're in the weaker position, when you're playing defense instead of offense?
Yeah, well, we need to get back on offense. It's clear that we need to show strength. Bullies like Xi Jinping respond to strength. So I would call on Secretary Blinken and the Biden administration to be tough on China. We've been weak on China. We allowed a spy balloon to make its way across our country. We've allowed them to set up a surveillance state, police stations to harass us in New York City, a spy base in Cuba. I mean, when does it end? We need to make sure we are, again, standing up to deter conflict with China going forward, but that takes strength. So I'm hopeful that Secretary Blinken will show that strength. 40 years of appeasement to China is long enough. And again, we've been asleep at the wheel. It's time to take some serious, strong action.
Congresswoman, all we hear from the administration, Janet Yellen, others, is decoupling can't work. You can't move away from China in a really significant way. But you talk about leverage. How else are you going to get leverage if you don't start building supply chains that fundamentally don't depend on China? What is your view on the possibilities, call it decoupling, call it de-risking, significantly moving away from China in a relatively short period of time?
Yeah. Well, I think we do need to be investing in American manufacturing, making products and services here at home. China certainly has that plan. They have a Made in China plan by 2025 to make biomedical engineering products, aeronautical products, you name it. They want to manufacture ag equipment in China, and they are stealing our IP to make that dream happen for them. So again, this is coming down to us making investments, us making smart policies so that people who are investing their dollars, the American investor, knows where those dollars are going, because I certainly think people want to be cautious about sending Americans money or taxpayer money to China to then fund them actively working against us. I think that's wrong, and that's what we need to be sensitive to. People need to know, hey, you make an investment in China, as soon as they get what they want, you're out. They will shut you out, and they will keep their motion going. So I think that's really important that American investors know that, and we as policymakers are going to be taking that very seriously as well.
I want to shift gears with you if I can. You come from Iowa. Iowa has become a big leader in school choice. You enacted a universal school choice policy earlier this year. Interesting piece in the Wall Street Journal in the editorial section today highlighting new evidence of student success. A nationwide Stanford study found huge learning gains over union schools when it came to charter schools. So choice works. This is a 15-year study. You know, there's no particular political alignment here. This is just looking at the data, reading, writing, arithmetic. Where are students making gains? Iowa is a leader right now. America needs more of this. Congressman, what are you doing at the federal level to help push choice for parents who want to get their kids out of failing schools?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I'm talking about it left and right. I think it's really important to counter all of the rhetoric that we continue to hear coming out of the Biden administration that is anti-parent and really destructive to our kids' educational process. And I want to be very, very clear about one thing. As the Midwest minivan driving mom, I do not co-parent with the government. I know what's best for my kids, my two boys, Max and Jax, and I am grateful that I live in a state where we have the most pro-parent, pro-education governor in the country who realizes it is about making sure those kids have educational opportunities. So I think we can have all these things at the same time. We can have a great public school system, we can have a great private school system, and we can also have a great charter school system, because what it's really about is about educational outcomes for our next generation of learners. So that's what I'm focused on. We've passed the Parents' Bill of Rights here in Washington, D.C. We're working on workforce initiatives to help engage our young people in internships and job shadow opportunities. So that's what we need to be doing to look at education on the whole. And I'm so pleased with the action that Governor Reynolds has taken in Iowa.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's an economic question. If we're going to outcompete China, if we're going to have leverage in the world stage, we better have a great education system in America. And that starts with giving parents choice and letting them use their resources the way that they think they should. We got to leave it there. Congresswoman Ashley Hinson, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Meanwhile, coming up, who's laughing now? Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm is in hot water for misleading Congress.